Good evening. The time is 7:30, and I will call this public hearing and regular business meeting of the Mayor and Council for the City of Snellville, Georgia for Monday, September 9th to order. We do have a quorum present. Tonight we've got our invocation with James Savage, the Associate Pastor from Snellville United Methodist Church.
Can we pray together? Almighty God, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for giving us a time and a place to serve your people and to the best of our ability to serve them well. God, we ask that your presence would fill this space tonight. God, we ask that with every conversation that is had, with every decision that is made, God, it is a conversation and a decision that honors this city, that honors the people within this city, and that works for the good of all. God, we ask that you would bring wisdom into this room. God, bring discernment into this room. May we think upon things that are true and good and worthy and graceful. God, we believe that you want the best for your people. May we also work for the best of your people in this city. God, we thank you for the honor of being a part of leading and of serving. May we honor you and may we honor all others. We pray this in your powerful and your present name. Amen.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the pledge to the flag. Mr. Joe Wilson will lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. We have no ceremonial matters. Next, we'll have the minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes of the August 26th, 2019 work session, regular meeting and public hearing, and post office public meeting.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. It is 6 in favor and none opposed. Tonight we have no invited guests, and we have one committee report. Mr. Bill Kingsbury with the Planning Commission.
Good evening. At the last Planning Commission meeting, we unanimously approved SUP 19-02. This was an application by Faith Ministry for a special use permit and variance for a place of worship in the Fountain Square Business Center. The space they are asking to use, it has been used as a place of worship in the past. In addition to having worship, they also operate an adult daycare center out of it and also provide some counseling. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Kingsbury?
Thank you.
Nope. Thank you, Bill. Next, we'll have the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item G, consideration and action to authorize the mayor to sign the intergovernmental agreement between Gwinnett County Water and Sewerage Authority and the City of Snellville for implementation of the Snellville Town Center Sewer Installation Project.
And that would be under item G, new business?
Correct.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda, adding item G for the intergovernmental agreement. All in favor, please raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. Next, we have one item under our public hearing. It's item A, first reading SUP 19-02, consideration and action on application by Love and Faith Ministries and Mockberry Investments, Inc. for a special use permit and variances from the zoning ordinance for a place of worship in Building D, Fountain Square Business Center, zoned BG General Business District, 2140 McGee Road, Snellville, Georgia. This is just a first reading. It's a procedural reading. It'll get waived and placed on the next meeting agenda for September 23rd. Is there a motion?
Motion to waive the first reading on SUP 19-02 and to place it on the agenda for September 23rd for a second reading and public hearing.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. We have nothing under our consent agenda and no old business. So now we go to item 12, new business. Item A, we have a second reading, ordinance 2019-15, amend Chapter 22 of the Code of the City of Snellville, Georgia to establish definitions and regulations for short-term rentals, to provide for the continued availability of quality transient lodging within the city and proper maintenance of short-term rentals, to provide severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide an effective date and other purposes. This is a second reading. So I will take a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 2019-15 as read by the mayor.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second on the table for approval. Do any council members have anything they'd like to opine on?
Yes. Short-term rentals in this particular ordinance are defined as an overnight lodging between 1 and 31 days, and normally this takes place in residential areas. These particular rentals are facilitated by companies like Home Away, vacation rental by owner, as well as Airbnb, which has become more of the trendy one. Without any sort of regulation on short-term rentals, you're looking at a risk of having your neighbor's house becoming more of a rotating hotel in these residential communities. We've also seen instances of these types of rentals becoming party houses. Not to mention, I guess the worst case scenario to me is havens for sex trafficking. This particular ordinance would require these short-term rental properties, these landlords, to actually get the proper permits from the city and regulation of the commercial activity that certainly is taking place in residential communities. It would also subject these establishments to the hotel motel tax that our other hotels in the Snellville area, of course, are required to pay. This particular ordinance is an incredibly important measure to keep our neighborhoods exactly what they are. The character of Snellville must be preserved in this.
Thank you, Councilmember Linsky. Any other council members?
Yeah,
Councilmember Marmol?
yeah. I'll be voting no. It's the example that Christy gave about party houses, that was actually not an Airbnb, and it's illegal to do party houses with Airbnbs. So the behavior of the individual with what they do with their house is going to be the behavior of the individual, but Airbnb doesn't allow that. Do regulations need to be enforced on this sort of housing? I believe possibly, but the market itself in that industry is very positive. There isn't very much of, there are a handful of incidences where it's negative. I personally use it whenever I travel all over the place. Probably over 50 times I've done this sort of, instead of hotels, I've had one negative experience. There isn't really like a reason to regulate this in Snellville. There's no immediate threat of someone or some sort of security thing or some sort of health thing, or that claim that government tries to use most of the time when they try to regulate stuff. There's So, and then this one also, I believe, goes more than other regulations I've seen on the same industry in other cities. This one's larger, more expansive. So that's how I'll be voting no.
Thank you, Councilmember Marmol.
Mayor, if I might.
Councilmember Warner.
My first reaction when I heard that we were going to be regulating short-term rentals was absolutely not. I felt very much as Mr. Marmol does. But for those of y'all who may not know, my business is residential real estate. I invest in residential real estate. And through my business dealings, I've done many transactions, done much work for people who have gone into the Airbnb business. And one of the things that's required when you sign up on Airbnb is you have to let people know whether or not you have cameras on your property, because you, as a customer, need to know whether you could be surveilled. And what was found anecdotally from the people I know that are in this industry is they had about a 40% decrease in their rentals as soon as they put on the website that they had security cameras. And in doing some review work to find out why that was, because surprisingly, people have a tendency to put up the cameras first and then let Airbnb know about it later. And what they found was these, although they weren't being used as party properties, they were being used for, well, let's just say, keeping ladies somewhat gainfully employed, one of the oldest professions in the world. There were people coming in and out, and it is not something that, as a landlord, as a property owner, I would ever want to happen in my property. This regulation requires that every driveway and every entrance to the house is covered with a security camera. And that's very important because we as a society have been fighting sex trafficking specifically for the last 5 years. It's been getting a lot of press. There's not a day that goes by that I don't get something on my Facebook feed or my other social media saying that a child has disappeared. And those children aren't going down black holes. Many of them are being lured into sex trafficking. And for me, it's very important that this ordinance will be able to protect those neighborhoods and those young ladies and men who are being brought in for this. One of the reasons this is so important is, think about an Airbnb. You can rent a house, be in there for one night, transact your business, and go on to another house in another neighborhood before the neighbors or the police ever get wise to it. It is the absolute perfect venue for sex trafficking. The other thing is, we actually have had a short-term rental in the city of Snellville that turned out to be a drug house. They were transacting business, selling, I believe it was marijuana and meth, out of a property over off of Lenore Church, and that was shut down. Again, had there been security cameras covering all those entrances and exits, we would have been able to, our police department, do a much better job of tracking down the people who were running it and also their clients. So, although I understand the desire to not regulate some things, this is one of those that I'm 100% behind at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to echo a lot of what Councilmember Warner said. My initial reaction to this ordinance was negative, and then I started looking at things as he did, and there are just too many opportunities for the type of activities that we don't want in the city. A number of years ago, we had either very lax or no group home regulations. And we were besieged with group homes that were run by shady people who were actually taking advantage of the people they were supposed to be taking care of. And I think this is in the same area. You're looking at something where I can rent a house, I can waltz in, do whatever I want to do legally or illegally, and then move out. And as hotels have become more and more aware of the sex trafficking issue, it's driving people to rent Airbnbs for that purpose. And I absolutely don't want to see Snellville become home to that kind of activities. So I'll be voting yes tonight.
Well, I won't burden you with repetition of things that all the other council members have said, but I will also be voting for this. It's so important to me that we protect neighborhoods in Snellville and keep them nice, so I will support it.
And just final comment is that this does not prevent people from having an Airbnb in the city. You certainly can. There's a lot of the discussion centered on all of the bad elements of an Airbnb. And the regulation has those terms in it to help minimize that risk. But it doesn't prevent a reputable person from operating an Airbnb in a neighborhood, and it doesn't prevent people from renting that Airbnb, but they will be licensed in the city and properly maintained. So, I mean, I looked at it from a homeowner perspective. I don't necessarily want my next door neighbor, moving out of their house and putting it up as an Airbnb and people just coming in and out all the time. So just from a homeowner's perspective, I would rather try to limit it. We can't ban them completely. I mean, that's, business practice market is going to drive that. But we can at least make it to where we're going to get the reputable people running it and then using it. So with that, I will close any discussion. We have a motion on the floor to approve ordinance 2015-15, and we have a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. That is 5 in favor. Any opposed? And 1 opposed. Thought he changed his mind. Next, item B, ordinance 2019-16, an ordinance to amend Chapter 26 of the Environment Ordinance and Code of the City of Snellville, Georgia, to establish enforcement for burn bans implemented by Gwinnett County and the state of Georgia, to provide severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide an effective date, and for other purposes. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make the motion to approve ordinance 2019-16 as read.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I got Dave. Just by a second, but I got him first. This is a second reading. I will provide council an opportunity to discuss, but let's keep it short. Mr. Warner, I'm assuming you're going to be first.
I'd like to be first. Jeopardy, I'm learning about the buttons here. The reason this came up is when I was on council 10 years ago, people would come to me and say, my neighbor keeps burning stuff. We have a burn ban that's in place. All of us know we're in non-containment area for the EPA, and we have to have special gas certain times a year. And people were burning stuff, and they would come to me and they'd say, how can we stop them? And I'd say, well, call the fire department. Well, it turns out the fire department doesn't do that. Only a fire chief can do that. It took me until coming on council again and having a few people bring to my attention that we still have issues with both people who have medically induced burn bans. If somebody like my stepmom has COPD or some other issue, you're not allowed to burn within a certain area of them. Plus, there was no way for us to enforce the burn ban that we all know we have from, I think, April 1st to October 1st. And if we have these wonderful laws, but no way to enforce them, then we shouldn't have the law at all. So in looking at this, it became important for us to just go ahead and adopt the Gwinnett County ordinance. That way our PD can go ahead and enforce the burn ban, and hopefully I'll never have to worry about it again.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Anyone else? With that, we have a motion to approve ordinance 2019-16 and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. We have item C, second reading, ordinance 2019-17, and ordinance to amend Chapter 13 and Chapter 17, administration and enforcement article, and the property maintenance article of the zoning ordinance and code of the city of Snellville, Georgia, to clarify enforcement for these articles, to provide severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide an effective date, and for other purposes. Is there a motion?
Motion to refer this to the Planning Commission for review with respect to the zoning change.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. What's happening on this ordinance is, all we're really doing in this is cleaning up some language. There was some conflicting terminology between planning department and police department, responsibilities for code enforcement. And this code section has been changed and reverted and changed several times, and just some language just wasn't clear in both. Just needed a little bit of cleanup. But there is an element in here that is part of a zoning ordinance, and that requires a planning commission review and then a public hearing. So we're just going to refer that back to the planning commission. So that's what the motion is tonight. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. It is 6 in favor and none opposed. Item D. We have a nomination for post 3 of the Urban Redevelopment Agency with the term expiration date of June 30th, 2023. I'd like to nominate Lori Ann J. Spears to that position. That's my nomination. I ask for confirmation. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. Okay. We have item E, again, Lori Ann J. Spears. I'd like to appoint to post 3 of the Development Authority of Snellville with the term expiration date of June 30th, 2023. That's my nomination. All in favor, please raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. Welcome aboard, Lori Ann. Next, we'll have item F, consideration and action on surplus of parks and recreation equipment. Is there a motion?
Motion to surplus the parks and recreation equipment as listed.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. And next we have new item G, which is intergovernmental agreement between Gwinnett County and the Gwinnett County Water and Sewer Authority and the City of Snellville. Is there a motion?
Motion to authorize the mayor to sign the intergovernmental agreement between Gwinnett County Water and Sewerage Authority and the City of Snellville for implementation of the Snellville Town Center Sewer Installation Project.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that? Oh, Mr. Warner got in there. Very good.
I'm learning how to play.
There's a motion and a second. What this is, for the town center development project, there's new water lines need to be installed, new sewer lines need to be installed to service the area. And this will be a help for residential development as well, because it's going to be going down Eastwood. Is it Eastwood?
Great. It's actually on the monitor, so everybody.
Oh, there you go. Do you want to talk about it, Butch?
This IGA pertains to the new sewer service outlined in pink on this aerial. It's about 4,500 feet of new sanitary sewer, which will serve phase 2 of the town center, which is the property to the north of Wisteria, about 8.2 acres. As the mayor said, it also allows for numerous options for local citizens who would, if they have a septic tank problem, they would be able to connect to that new sewer line, and it provides for options in the future to provide sanitary sewer service for a much larger area. Future projects would attach to this line. In this agreement, the city commits to obtain 5 easements that are necessary for the construction, as well as pay for 25% of the cost of the project, which is estimated to be, the total project cost is about $1.7 million. Our share would be $450,000. GWR would pay the great majority, the 75%.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. And we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. We are through our council agenda. That'll bring us to council reports. We'll start with Councilmember Warner.
Well, for me, it's been a busy couple of weeks since our last meeting. At the last meeting, I mentioned that my father-in-law was in the hospital and had stomach cancer, and we've since found out that it's in his pancreas and liver, and he will be figuring out how to enjoy the next 3 or 4 months. And with that, I will close my comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Warner.
No report.
No report. Councilmember Linsky?
Am I on? Thank you. Usually you can hear me without it. Taste of Snellville will be Saturday. Be sure to come out on the town green 4 to 8 p.m. for some outstanding food and beverages. And then also on Sunday, Snellville Middle School will be holding its 50th anniversary celebration at 2 p.m. at, of course, the middle school. A shout out to Bobby Tanner, one of my favorite administrators, who is now full-time retired. He's here tonight at our meeting. Come back to South Gwinnett, please.
Thank you, Councilmember Linsky. Councilmember Schultz?
I just wanted to take a couple minutes tonight to give a shout out to our code enforcement officers, one of whom is standing in the back at the door, Officer Brown. The other one is Officer Johnny Green. We've had a few situations in our own neighborhood where I've had the opportunity to really work with them and see the kinds of processes that they have to go through when there are code violations in a neighborhood. One of the most recent ones in our own neighborhood is a home quite near ours where they have approximately 25 cats inside the house and 15 cats outside the house that are in all the neighbors' yards constantly. And it's a very sad situation because these people aren't able to afford to have these cats spayed and neutered. Some of the neighbors, including ourselves, have donated money for spays and neuters, trying to get the situation under control. But if you don't get them all, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And Officer Green has been handling this situation, and he's done it with a lot of compassion, because these people do actually care about these cats, and he's having to get Gwinnett Animal Control involved. Sometimes the neighbors don't understand why it takes so long sometimes to get a situation handled, but they try to meet with the homeowners. They try to resolve these things in a way that benefits the homeowners and the neighborhood too. And we just don't always appreciate all the steps that they have to go through sometimes to get the end result that we all hope for. Sometimes in the case of properties that are not being maintained, it actually means that they have to take legal steps and bring these homeowners into the court. Sometimes these homeowners don't even live in Georgia anymore, and it can be very difficult to contact them. So I just want to recognize them, and hopefully more of us will understand the difficulties that they face sometimes trying to resolve some of these problems that we have. Thank you, Officer Brown.
Thank you, Gretchen. And Mayor Pro Tem Emanuel, I'll try not to forget you tonight.
I feel special tonight she remembered me. I just want to make you aware of a couple of meetings we have coming up. On September 26th, Snellville Clean and Proud is hosting a meeting here at City Hall to discuss our litter pickup program. Solicitor Brian Whiteside will be here. He's trying to initiate some kind of action to catch people who are doing illegal dumping. And Chief Whitehead will be there talking about code enforcement and the various aspects and processes so that everybody gets a better understanding. And if you do have code enforcement issues, as Clean and Proud, we're working with code enforcement. So if people have physical or financial problems and they can't maintain their property, we have some options to help them out. So if you want more information, that'll be September 26th at 6:30. On October 3rd, we're going to be talking about digital badges. And if you're unfamiliar with that, digital badges are an outside the classroom education process that's open to anybody, from young students to anybody who's already working. And it gives you an opportunity to expand your skill set. So whether you're looking for a job, looking for a promotion, or just looking to expand your skill set, you can go online, go through the badges at no cost to you. And once you get the badge, you can put that on your resume and use that when you're applying for a job or applying for a promotion. So that will be October 3rd at 6:30 here at City Hall as well.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Emanuel. Now for the mayor's report, I had the honor and the fun. Friday night was the standoff, what would you call it, between South Gwinnett and Brookwood Broncos in football Friday night. And it's the Mayor's Cup that was instituted, I'm not even sure how many years ago, 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. Mayor Oberholzer created the Mayor's Cup, and the winner of the football game between these two schools with our city rivalry get a trophy, and then they get bragging rights for a year. So the trophy winds up at their school. They get to display it for a year until next year's standoff. So it was a lot of fun. The game was great. South Gwinnett pulled it out. They came alive in the second quarter. It was 4 or 5 interceptions, I think, and another turnover, and just a really great game that I don't even know what the score was.
35-21.
That's what I thought, 35-21 in the end. So it was a great game. It was just a beautiful evening just to be able to be outside. And then a couple of weeks ago, I attended, there was a back-to-school evening of prayer. It was hosted at the First Baptist Church, and it was put together by Rose Staples. She's a teacher and a prayer coordinator for her church. And it was just it was a 1-hour service, and it was just an opportunity to pray for teachers and the administrators and the students and the bus drivers and the safety for the coming year. It was a great uplifting program. They had the Shiloh Middle School choir came out and sang, and they sang a couple of songs, and then a couple other groups had sang some songs and did some dance things as well. But it was a great opportunity. A lot of pastors had come out to help assist in the prayer, and it was just a great day. I'll talk with Ms. Staples. This is her 3rd year of doing this. I think she needs to get it out there a little bit more, promote it to a few other people to get attendance up as well. So those 2 things, and then, so that ends my report, and we will open up the floor to public comment. If anybody has anything they would like to talk about, you got 5 minutes. Come on up and give your name and address for the record.
You want me to turn it on? Just Kurt Schultz, 2027 Tanglewood Drive. Just a very short comment to you all. I want to thank you all for being proactive instead of reactionary on especially the short-term rentals that was voted on tonight. I think it's so important that these items and several others coming up, are nipped in the bud, because they get out of control, and I hope the same action will be taken with what Gretchen brought up with the vaping in the work session. I would hate to see vape shops in every strip shopping center along 78 and 124. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Anyone else? Don't fight, you'll both get a turn.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Marian Eberfor. I'm the president for the Greater Eastside Chamber of Commerce, and we are located right here in City Hall. My personal address is 4394 River Lake Way, Snellville, Georgia, 30039. I would like to share with you all an event that we have coming up and say thank you to STAT and to the city of Snellville for hosting us on the Snellville Town Green. So on Saturday, November the 9th, we will have our fundraiser event, the Hot Tamale Chili Cook-Off, from 11 to 3. This event is open to individuals of all ages. It will comprise activities for youth, for children, vending events for our adults, and of course, chili tasting. We will be using a portion of the funds that we collect at that event to give to the Snellville Veterans Memorial. We're really excited to be able to do that and to support the Snellville Veterans Memorial. So again, I want to say thank you for hosting us, and I look forward to seeing you all on Saturday, November the 9th, 11 to 3, right here on the Town Green. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
My name's Judy Ramsey, and I live on Norton Road, and I was just wondering if you guys were aware of the great difficulty of turning left off of Norton Road onto Scenic Highway, or to go across 3 lanes to get to turn left on the Highway 78. Lots of times when the traffic is the typical busy traffic times, you have to go around through Knollwood and Nob Hill, and I was just wondering if there was anything that could help.
That was going to be a difficulty. This is a state DOT project, so I would refer you, if you'll give your number to the city manager, Butch Sanders, and he can talk with you about that in a little more detail, and maybe who we can talk to or how the project came about.
Okay, and thank you for giving a shout out to Wayne Brown. Awesome person.
Yes, he does a great job. Thank you. Anyone else? Now, we did, our work session ran right till 7:25, so we didn't have our executive session. So I'm going to call for that now. We don't expect any business or any action to come out of that executive session. So during the public hearing of Mayor and City Council of Snellville, Georgia, Mayor Bender announced that certain matters should be discussed in a closed session of the meeting and asked council to advise the city with respect to closing the meeting. City Attorney Tony Powell advised the city of the following reasons to close the meeting: to discuss pending and/or potential litigation, settlement claims, administrative proceedings, or other judicial actions which is exempt from the Open Meetings Act pursuant to OCGA Section 50-14-21, to authorize negotiations to purchase, dispose of, or lease property, authorize the ordering of an appraisal related to the acquisition or disposal of real estate, enter into a contract to purchase, dispose of, or lease property subject to approval in a subsequent public vote, or enter into an option to purchase, dispose of, or lease real estate subject to approval and subsequent public vote, which is excluded from the Open Meetings Act pursuant to Section 50-14-3B1. Upon a motion of Council Member
Emanuel
and seconded by Council Member
Schultz.
Schultz. The meeting was closed with the following council members and the mayor present and voting. Mayor Barbara Bender, yes. Mayor Pro Tem Dave Emanuel.
Yes.
Christy Linsky. Yes. Roger Marmel. Yes. Gretchen Schultz? Todd Warner? With that, we will go into the conference room for the executive session. The time's 8:10. Council members, if you could be there by 8:15. There's a vote for 8:11. If we make it by 8:20, let's get in there. The sooner everybody's there, the sooner we can get done. Thank you all.